Okay, and we move on to the final third presentation.
Thank you.
Syamantak. All over.
Thank you. I want to start by saying how privileged I feel to be here, and I want to thank Catherine for inviting me. My presentation is actually trying to put together the two industries, shipping and container dock workers, and using these two industries to start from the very basic point of what really matters and what works for effective management of workplace health and safety, and starting from the very, very basic. I mean, we have got a number of authors. Some of the noted works I pointed out here, they're saying that, well, there are several reasons, several prerequisites that are necessary for a workplace to be healthy and safe for the workers. And the two leading ones are possibly if you have an organized labor, if you have the labor that are used, they can have a consultation, they can have a representation, they can participate. And the second one is the role of the regulators, and in that sense, it's more about regulatory control and inspection, those sort of things. So we'll keep these the basic appreciation of what works in mind, and then we want to go to look at these two different sectors with some empirical evidence to show what is happening. So I'll take you through this. I'll try to show. So the two sectors are, I need to do a bit of contextualizing because they are not the most, they're not the most common knowledge. Shipping is far away from our eyes, and port workers as well. So just wanted to take you down the shipping and the container sectors one by one, and all my slides with shipping are with a bit of a blue tinge, and containers are with a bit of a red tinge. So this is a sector that is have turned in the last 30-40 odd years have turned highly fragmented. As you can see, the 58% of the ship owners pointed out have got only one ship, and 3/4 of ship are registered by foreign regulators. Now, this is an unusual development, because it doesn't happen very often like that you have an asset and you can choose who you want that asset to be regulated by. But in the shipping, this happens all the time, to the extent that every 3 out of 4 ships are regulated by foreign regulators, and they're managed by people, professionals. They are yet in another country, and of course, the last point I'm saying that more than 70% of seafarers are sourced from a global labor market. So it is a deeply fragmented industry. I can see that the extent that the regulators are actually taken over, the foreign regulators, the regulators who are desperately wanting to regulate for obvious reason, that is, they get paid for it, and not that they have a particular interest in for any other reason. So you can see the foreign flag, the top graph, going up at a much higher rate than the total fleet. So it's eating into those special regulators who are, examples being Panama and Liberia. These are the countries which want to regulate, and they are going at a much higher rate. I got an example here, just to show. We might take the case of Germany, maybe, if you can see. it has got 54.8%. So what this table is trying to show is that the left-hand side, the country of domicile, is the country of domicile of the owners, of the ship owners. And the middle bit is about where did they choose to register their ships. So more than half of the German ship owners, or half of the ships, are registered in Liberia. So the reason being that, of course, it makes it easier for them to, therefore, have far less stringent regulatory conditions, and particularly the regulatory conditions for the occupation health and safety of the workers. That gives the maximum savings for the ship owners. So I thought, instead of going down the rules of statistics and showing percentage, I thought I'd put a world map in a very, very poorly artwork of mine. But you can see that the reds are the places where the wealthy ship owners live. That is the country of domicile. The one that is on the in these are blues. Some blues there. These are the places where these ship owners choose to register their ships, and obvious reasons that they are, they don't have such stringent requirements. And the third is these lovely bits here. These are the places where the seafarers come from. So it's making a very colorful world for reasons which are not that colorful. Now, this is the way. What has happened as a result of that is we have in the maritime sector lots of consequences, and especially occupational health and safety consequences are quite stark. There's a question of the state's regulatory potential, because these people, these regulators who are using regulation are actually not professional, not having the years and decades of experience. They're leading to, therefore, the fragmentation starts here, where we can see that the ship owner manager have got contractual relationship, and that is, we're talking about a month's notice. A ship owner can withdraw the management of a ship from a ship management company. And likewise, the ship manager has a contractual relationship with the seafarer, where they have got, again, a few months service period that they get contracted to and work. Ships are run by fewer people now, and the people are working much more than before. And with the help of technology, the ships have also been, the turnaround time of ships in port has come down quite remarkably. So as a result, there is a lot of pressure on the seafarers to work under these conditions. What other bits that might help is missing? Well, there is, other than pay scale, there is no collective bargaining agreement. There is no presence of the standard nationally based trade unions, because which nation are we talking about? We got a seafarer from Indonesia, we got a management company in UK, we got a ship owner in Belgium. The ships are applying in from different parts to a different part of the world. So it has become very difficult for a nationally based trade union to function. So there is a lot of insecurity of employment, and there is also I've put that there as a flag of convenience. These flags, which are those blue dots which I showed, are called the flags of convenience. Convenience being the key word, so that they are used for convenience of the ship owners, obviously. And the third-party ship management on the right-hand side of the triangle, and left-hand side is a new labor from the new labor supply mission. So this has become the norm, unfortunately. Don't want to go to too much depth, but I just wanted to show here that as a result of this, over the years, there has been, I mean, this is drawing on historical data a lot, but what has happened here is that technology has come into the shipping industry a lot, and we're talking about fatalities now on ships. And we're talking about fatalities due to MD being the maritime disasters, where the ship goes down, foundering of the ship. And the other side is the OA, is the occupational accidents related individual people dying on ships. Now, if you just have to see on the last column here, the ratio between, maritime disaster over occupational accidents have changed from more than 1 to below 1 over the years. That means that whatever technology could do has done, it has done it. It has made the ships safer, but now the management has the way the occupational health and safety is managed have reversed the problem to a problem for the individual workers on board ships. So just wanted to point that out. Now moving to the red sign of things about dock sector, and dock sector is about container that we are talking about, and that has gone through an explosion of, the containers have grown significantly over the years, in the last 10, 15, 20 years. You can see the growth in the number of containers being handled. That has resulted in container ports are growing year on year, every year around the world, especially in places in East Asia and China in particular. This is a small example of Rotterdam here, just showing that it has a current capacity of this many million TEUs, this 20-foot equivalent units, that's the container measurements, that it can handle, and in the next 20 years it has to grow significantly more, and it is creating more space to handle, just to show it is a global thing. There's a lot of work going on in that. So we have got lots of container operators coming from around the world, and they are either running on concession mode for 40 years or 50 years, and they are putting in a significant capital investment, and they are growing, they're buying over their competitors, and so they're using economy of scale, economy of scope to be more and more in the business. And so basically what's happening is there are a few container operators now in the world, which are roughly these people who are operating around the world. And as you can see, these lovely dots, then again, they are everywhere. They are just everywhere. So you have a container port, you are very likely to have one of these operators operating on your shores. So consequences in the dock sector, likewise, there have been a lot of consequences. There is labor reduction, different skills need, and occupational health being neglected. There is limited work involvement, contract labor, massive contract labor, use of contract labor. So we can see some examples here, what has happened in terms of occupational health and safety in particular. We can see that, just quoted a few studies. There was a very, very painful example of, on the right-hand side, Hong Kong, where there was a 40-day strike and nothing much came out of the strike. And strike was because of reasons such as people are exploited to a point, you're pushed to the wall, and that's why they kind of stood up and went for that. But this particular graph also shows, this is the case in Italy, where it shows that employment number has come down from more than 5,700 to roughly 1,000. More and more new employees, therefore, are young, inexperienced workforce. And you can see the injury index has gone up from 13 to 29. So, whichever way possible, the employers are trying to reduce the overheads, the costs. So I'm now coming with this very long introduction, I'm afraid, to the data that I have collected on these two areas. And just want to go again through very quickly about the left-hand side. I went on 4 ships and 2 shipping companies, mostly interview-based, and used here 6 terminal operators, again interview-based data. And especially I want to show you that the terminal operators were in India and in Australia, and the 4 shipping companies, and they were in different parts of the world. So that gives me the opportunity to have a comparison of what was happening. So what we found was not much different from what was already available in the on literature. There were people who were having strains and pains and contracted through agencies, overworked. None of them had much idea of what the trade unions they had, who was representing them. So there was a lot of problem in terms of getting the workers' representation. There was none at all, and almost everything was left to the hands of the managers in order to who would look after their health and safety, because we have a situation where there is no scrupulous state support, and there is no trade union support. So a lot of it almost entirely left in the hands of the managers. So, but some kind of a regulation also came about in which we can see that there was something known as a port state control that came about, which is the way the ships, whichever port the ship visits, the local state authority can go on board ships and inspect the ships. So that again was not uniform across the globe, and particularly effective was Europe and North America and Japan. So we have a number of quotes saying these inspectors are good, but they are better in places where, in such places, Europe, North America and Japan. Some places it's to the extent that port state control are good, but it depends where they're saying. So 2 things therefore mattered. I mean, I can go on, but the 2 things that mattered is this particular quote does it all. It's the last 2 years we are trading in this area, Thailand, India, Gulf, but never had an inspection. But when we go to US, we become a safer ship. So it depends on where you trade. That makes a difference. So it is right down to the inspection by the state that matters. So on that side, and on again back to the container side, we found in Australia that there was the labor were highly organized. They had all the indicators that their representation was working. Their CBAs were in place. There was health and safety representation, joint health and safety committee. These were rather functional. They were working, and there were far fewer problems in terms of health and safety management in the Australian context. It becomes very difficult to read and tell you about how it was in India. It was people who had all sorts of problems, including back pain, stress. They were treated in some cases pretty inhumanly. They didn't have any place to eat. They had no place to rest, no poor equipment, poor ergonomics. And if you see the quotes on the right-hand side, you will see that some people are saying, to the extent, the first one was quite pathetic. I had malaria last year. The contractor sent me home. I went on train shivering, and this is a contract worker who has come 2,000 miles from another part of the country, with the migrant contract workers. He did not even pay for the train fare. These are just all of them are telling us that there is very little organized workforce, and there is no. The last one suggests we have never seen a dock inspector, so there is very little dock inspection as well. So this slide really takes care of most of the reasons for the problems. We can see this is India, this is Australia, and there's a funny column here which says management union. I don't think that really is like oxymoron. But this is just showing that a lot of these managers, these big name global terminal operators are having their own management union so that they can control them better. None of those was present in Australia, as you can see, and this is the proportion of workforce who are contracted out. So this is a very heavy percentage of workforce who are part-time contracted and subcontracted, and most of them are coming from migrant workers coming from far away. So this is a situation, and just a few slides left at the dock regulator side of things. Even in Australia, there was not a great deal of dock labor inspectors doing inspection and control, and in India also the dock labor inspector was almost as you heard from the labor side of story. But we also interviewed them, and one of them said that we only do checking of cargo gear, load test certificate, etc. We do not get involved with terminals' internal matters. The internal matter being occupational health and safety that we are particularly interested in. So of course, unless somebody died, so they had to conduct inspections. So just some photos to show you how poor working conditions were in that place. So just dock workers comparative results between Australia and India. So union support very strong. I mean, there was no union support whatsoever in India. There's the problem with the union support was unions were trying to get recognized in the first place. So support is a different matter altogether. But we can also see that when it came to the management, we asked both countries how were the management. There was a great deal of similarity in the way the management was trying to intervene in the matters. They couldn't do a lot of what they wanted to do in Australia, but they did almost everything they wanted to do in India because of the resistance, the difference in the resistance that they received from the trade union and the organized workforce that are there. Concluding, I just okay, at 0 minutes left. In the conclusion, basically just one last slide. I'm just trying to bring back how we started, saying that two things matter for any workplace in the world to be effectively managing its health and safety. One is either it is a workplace with organized labor, or it is a workplace where there is sufficient regulatory control. And we have used two different industries, so if there are nuances in the industries, surely they are not present once we look at these points. In the shipping side of things, organized labor, no. We found that across, they're not organized labor. In the shipping side of things, regulatory influence, yes. Regulatory influence is what really works. Either the ships are regulated by the home countries which are still effective, and not all have gone down the flag of convenience route, or that they're trading in a place where the port state control, the countries you're trading with, are effective. So that is a possibility where at times when the ships are safer. In the dock side of things, organized labor was the way where effectiveness depended on the traditional labor relations and how organized the labor were. And regulatory influence, we couldn't find much. So all I'm trying to say is that the problem is it's all right if you have either of the two, but there are a lot of places where you have neither. And when you have neither of the two supports, there is problem. There's big problem. I just want to end at this point, and thank you very much for listening.
Not very bad.